Hi everyone, and today we're going to look at setting up Visual Studio Code for Unity. Now, one of the things that people tend to not understand is that out of the box, Visual Studio Code doesn't understand what C# is, and it doesn't understand what to do with Unity. So we can fix that, and it's very quick, and it's actually a very easy fix. But let's show you first how we can identify that we are not set up correctly. So I've got this small little project here. I've got a player, and I'm going to write a player controller. So if I open up the player controller, one of the first things you might see, you may end up getting this pop-up. Just you can hit install on this, but for now, let's just ignore this because I will go through that and some other things. So when we first look at the script here, nothing out of the ordinary is, nothing, it doesn't look like there's anything totally wrong with this. But let's say I want to now cache, say, the transform, for instance. So I'm going to cache the transform into a variable, and I'm going to actually misspell transform. Now you can see that it actually did give me some, so let me just do that again. It's giving me some form of suggestions there, but nothing that it should be giving to me. So the fact is that we've now got that set up, but there's two things here. One, I haven't actually created this transform variable, and two, I have misspelt the actual transform that Unity expects it to be spelled like. Now, when I click on the transform itself, I'm not seeing anything else to help me guide me to what might be the problem here. So you would probably think that there is no problem here. Now, another thing that you may see is that when you click on the Explorer up on the top here, you may get this. This is also another indication that the Visual Studio Code is not understanding what a Unity project actually is. If I go back to Unity, we can now see that Unity is now telling us that we've now got two errors. And the two errors are as expected. And the first one is obviously that I have not set up the transform, and that the transform that Unity would expect doesn't exist because, well, I misspelled it. Now, seems to be a common issue that a lot of people seem to not understand that they do have a problem, because any good IDE code editor, if it's configured correctly, it should be telling us that there is a problem here. So to fix this, we need to install a couple things. If we go to the left-hand side here, we can see that we've now got extensions, and I've clicked on that. And we need to search for C#. Now, you remember the pop-up did come up and recommend to you want to install this. I'm now going to say yes, but I'm going to do it manually over here. So we can see that that was actually a base language support for C#, and we're now going to install that. Now, because I did a search for C#, it's also picked up this dev kit here. So I would recommend installing this one as well. If you go on and click it, you can see the description in here. If we scroll down a little bit, we can see that in the feature list, we go down and we can see debugging and testing. Both of these are very important steps in your development lifecycle or workflow. So when we install these two packages, it's going to go off and install other dependencies that it will need, so you don't need to worry about them. It will just go off and install them. I'm just going to close that down for now, that warning. Now, because Unity used to have a package in its package manager, that has now been removed in later versions of Unity, and you may find that it still exists in previous versions. But the problem now is that because Unity and Visual Studio Code do not understand each other in that respect, Microsoft again has come along and added another support to it. So if we tell it to now search for the extension for Unity, we can now see that there is now an extension here from Microsoft, and we do need to install that one as well. So once we've installed this, we can now find that we will need to close Visual Studio Code down. Let's just close that off again. So we're going to close that down, and we're going to go back to Unity. Now, we also need to do one more thing inside Unity itself. Now, don't worry about the errors because they will be there until we fix that issue. We do need to go back to the package manager, and we need to, one, find the Visual Studio Code package. If you are on a previous version of Unity, you need to remove it. If you're on a later version of Unity, you need to make sure that the Visual Studio editor is set to 2.0.20 or later. Now we can see that there's an up arrow here, and it's telling us that there is an update and we need to install it, which we will do. Now, in some versions of Unity, I have seen where it says you need to unlock it because there's a lock next to here for some reason. And you may need to hit the unlock first before you can update it. And in this case here, we just need to update it. So we're just going to do that. But do make sure you do unlock it and then update it. Now, once you've done that, you will, and I highly suggest, you close Unity down. You can then reselect your project and open your project up. Now, because we do have errors, you also may end up with this error message that pops up on the screen. Well, it's not an error message, but you may end up with this message. And do not hit the safe mode. Just press ignore because we don't want to go into it. We already know what these errors are. We know how to fix them. So we're just going to press ignore. In your case, you may not know them, but once you understand what the errors are, you can fix them. So just do ignore for now. Okay, so once Unity has finished loading up, we just want to do one last thing, which I should have done before. I'm going to go to the edit menu and select preferences. And I'm just going to make sure that the external tools is actually set to Visual Studio Code. That is the last step. We need to make sure that that is set to Visual Studio Code. So we can now double click on that script and we can open it up, and within a few seconds, it's going to come up and show us that there's some problems in the script. So we can see on the the left-hand side here, we've got some in red or a darkish, I don't know what you call it, but it's technically not red. But you can see that that is telling us that there are two errors on the side here. And if you hover over it, it actually says two problems in this file. And we can see here that there is a squiggly line, a red squiggly line, and that is telling us that these are those two errors. And if we remain hovered over them, it's going to tell us what they are. And obviously the first one is saying that the underscore transform does not exist. That's because we forgot to assign it. So we can do one of two things. We can say, well, okay, well, let's view the problem, or we can do a quick fix. I would recommend going on and clicking the light bulb, and it'll show you what options you have available. So in this case, the very first thing is to generate the field. So that is what we're going to do. So that fixes the first error. Now the second error, we can see that we have misspelt this, and it's telling us that is it a quick fix or the view the problem. Now, Again, I'm not going to do anything other than do the same thing. I'm going to hit the light bulb, and I can scroll down to the bottom here, and I can see, well, do you want to fix this? Because it's saying, well, did you mean to do this as transform? And yes, I did. So I can go down here and I can say, fix that typo. So now when I save that and go back to Unity, once it has now recompiled, you'll find that those errors are now gone. And that is it. Well, we've come to the end of another video, and I do thank you for watching. If you did enjoy the video and would like to help support the channel grow, then please do subscribe. And to get notified of new content being added, make sure to press that bell.